Good evening, you're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. Straight up to our top story on the West Bengal violence. Four people have been arrested following the violence between protesters and the police at the BJP protest march to the Secretariat yesterday. Now, BJP leaders and workers clashed with the police during their protest, which is the party's biggest campaign since its 2021 poll defeat. In fact, the protest was against the alleged corruption of the Trinamool Congress party. Now, a police vehicle was also set ablaze, according to reports. In fact, an assistant commissioner of police was also beaten up allegedly by the protesters. The BJP alleged that the violence broke out after supporters of the Trinamool Congress infiltrated in this protest march. In fact, several leaders were detained during the protest. Now, the latest update is the Calcutta High Court has sought report from West Bengal Home Secretary over the protest, and the report is set to be submitted on September 19th. The High Court further directed the police to not illegally detain any person and also ensure that there is no damage to public property. In the meantime, an Air India Express flight was evacuated at the Muscat airport just ahead of takeoff for Kochi on Wednesday morning after one of its engines caught fire. Now, the Indian Express reported that smoke and fire was noticed in the engine of the Air India Express Boeing 737-800 Muscat Cochin flight, and all 145 passengers and 6 crew members were evacuated on the runway and sent to the terminal building. In fact, the 141 passengers and 4 infants on board were preparing to depart, in fact, at 11:20 a.m. local time when another aircraft's crew reported fumes coming from one of the engines. Now, the DGCA has said that it will investigate the matter. In fact, a similar incident on July 16th, Air India Express's Calicut to Dubai flight was diverted to Muscat after a burning smell was observed in the cabin mid-air. Meanwhile, in Gujarat, 7 laborers died and 1 was injured after a makeshift elevator of an under construction building crashed. Now, this happened in Ahmedabad. According to the Deputy Commissioner of Police, the elevator was on the 7th floor, I beg your pardon, when it crashed. According to the Indian Express, the Municipal Corporation Standing Committee Chairperson, Hitesh Bharot, has said that the building was privately owned. He said, and I quote, "Construction plans and other approvals would be inspected during an inquiry into this incident," end quote. And in Secunderabad, we told you yesterday that 8 people died after a fire. The police have now arrested 4 people in connection with this fire that started at an electric vehicle showroom and then moved up to the hotel above it, where several people fell unconscious. The arrest includes the owner and the manager of the hotel. 8 people died and 12 others were injured in this incident. The Forensic Science Laboratory, Electricity and Fire Department officials have been asked to probe the fire and submit reports as well. And in Karnataka court has extended the judicial custody of rape accused seer Shivamurthy Muruga Sharanaru for 14 more days till the 27th of September. He is the chief pontiff of an influential Lingayat mutt in Chitradurga. Now, 2 minor girls had accused him of sexual assault while they had stayed and studied in the ashram. In fact, based on their complaint, Shivamurthy was then arrested on the 1st of September and remanded to 14 days of custody, which has now been extended. Also, there is a political story coming out of Maharashtra where the Vedanta-Foxconn joint venture has signed an agreement now with the Gujarat government to set up a 1.5 lakh crore rupee semiconductor and display fabrication plant. Now, this is what is the politics behind this really, because it's come as a blow to Maharashtra, which has been in advanced stages of negotiations for the investment, because the plant was supposed to be set up in Maharashtra before, and now it's been set up, it's going to be set up in Gujarat. And this is, of course, sparked a blame game between the previous MVA government and the current Shiv Sena BJP government. Maharashtra, in fact, has been lobbying for this investment since 2015. Shiv Sena leader Aditya Thackeray has said that the Mahavikas Agadi government, when it was in power, had very strongly pursued this project. He said that this project would have supported 160 ancillary industries and generated 70,000 to 1 lakh employment opportunities. In the meantime, a Deputy Chief Minister of the state, Devendra Fadnavis, has responded. He said that the companies had decided to go ahead with investing in Gujarat even before the Shinde-led government came to power, and that the blame lies with the earlier government. He added, and I quote, "Although I'm a little disappointed, I'm not discouraged. We'll take Maharashtra much ahead of other states in the next 2 years," end quote. Meanwhile, in Goa, 8 out of 11 Congress MLAs have now joined the BJP. With this, the BJP will have 33 out of 40 seats in Goa Assembly. In fact, the Aam Aadmi Party has 2 MLAs, while the Goa Forward Party and Revolutionary Goans Party have 1 legislator each. In the meantime, the Congress has responded to this and said that the BJP was rattled by the success of its Bharat Jodo Yatra and engineered the defections. Also in the news, the Election Commission of India, in an affidavit to the Supreme Court, has said that it does not have the power to ban a political party or its members because of hate speech. Now, it said in the absence of a specific law, it has often taken action under the Indian Penal Code and the Representation of People Act to ensure that members of political parties do not make comments that can create disharmony among sections of the society. Now, the Commission made the statements in response to a plea by lawyer Ashwini Upadhyay asking the Centre to implement recommendations of the Law Commission Report 267 on hate speech. Moving on to environment right now. According to the World Meteorological Organization, India was among the countries that led to the global increase in carbon dioxide emissions in the first 5 months of 2022. Now, carbon emissions in India increased by 7.5% from January to May 2022 as compared to the same period last year. In the meantime, the United States registered an increase of 5.7%. Emissions were also reported to be increased in most European countries. The report further says that the G20 countries, that also include India and the EU, are not on track to achieve their climate goals. In fact, the G20 nations, according to the report, account for 80% of global carbon dioxide emissions and 70% of global plastic production, as well as 2/3 of the world's population and more than half of the world's poor. In business news now, India's wholesale inflation rate has declined to 12.41% in August from 13.93% in July. In August 2021, it was 11.64%. Now, the wholesale price index is the price of a representative basket of wholesale goods. According to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the WPI has increased because of rise in prices of mineral oils, food articles, crude petroleum and natural gas, basic metals, food products, etc. And in international news, focusing on Pakistan, because Pakistan's National Flood Response Coordination Center has pegged the country's losses because of the massive floods that it witnessed at over $40 billion. Now, the initial assessment was around $18 billion. In fact, over 1,400 people have lost their lives because of floods, and over 33 million people have been affected. The country received 190% more rain than its 30-year average between June and August. And in sports news, the Supreme Court has accepted the proposed changes in the Board of Control for Cricket in India's constitution, which will now allow the current president, Sourav Ganguly, and Secretary Shah to get an extension to their respective terms. In fact, both their terms were going to expire soon. They can now retain their positions and serve out another 3-year term. According to PTI, the SE in its order said that the office bearers can have continuous tenure of 12 years, which includes 6 years in the state association and 6 years in the BCCI. The top court's remarks came during a hearing on the board's plea to amend its constitution in order to eliminate the required cooling off period for office holders across state cricket associations and the BCCI, including its president and secretary. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.